Warning, the following tutorial contains data manipulation methods. Do not use unless absolutely necessary, as you are essentially making up data. If your trials have large portions with missing markers, our first recommendation is to recollect or exclude the affected trials. This method presented in this tutorial is for emergency cases only. Here I'm going to help answer a question that we get asked a lot, and that is, help, one of my trials doesn't have a marker in it that I need. What can I do? So here I've got a dynamic trial, and as I roll through this, you can see that my C7 marker is present at the start, but then very quickly drops out. And it is missing for the rest of the trial, so I can't even gap fill that. I cannot actually recover that using this data alone. Now, in order for this to work, what I'm going to show you, you do need a trial with the missing marker and all the other markers present. Here, my C7 marker is present, as well as my clav, my stern, and my T10 markers. And it's important that those other markers are present not only in my static trial, but also throughout my dynamic trial. I need those markers present if I want to recreate the marker that is missing. If one of them drops out during the dynamic trial, then I'm going to lose the ability to recreate my C7 marker. What I'll supply along with this video is a folder with a couple of text files in it. The first one is replace missing marker, and this has just a description, a breakdown of the other two pieces of code that I'll supply. Broken down into a static code and a dynamic code. We need the static code to run on the static trial. And we're going to use that to store the position of our culprit marker, in this case C7, relative to the other markers on that segment. Now, in order to do that, it only takes 3 lines of code. First, we're going to define the coordinate system using the existing markers. Then we're going to store our missing marker from the dynamic trial. It's present in our static trial. We're going to store that marker, C7, relative to that coordinate system. And I'm going to give that a name and store it in the parameter file. So I've got that set up here with the run static body language model operation. Point it to the code and run that. I get a tick, and I can check that in the parameter file now by scrolling down the properties and seeing C7 underscore tech, and it's got an XYZ coordinate. Okay, first part done. Save that. Moving on to the dynamic trial. So let's move to a part where the marker's missing. Let's say there. Now the second part of this is the dynamic code. Again, it's only 3 lines. First, we're going to redefine our coordinate system the exact same way as from our static trial. And then we're going to call the parameter from the parameter file and recall that relative to that coordinate system, that identical coordinate system. Then I'm going to output that using the same name that I want from my missing marker. So in this case, C7. And then just output that marker so it becomes visible in the 3D workspace. So set this up again with another operation, this time run dynamic body language model. And you can see now my marker has been recreated. So reasonably straightforward. However, what you can see in this trial is that the marker is present for some of the trial. So when I run this code in this format, it actually doesn't consider if the marker already exists. It just writes a new C7 position for every frame of the trial. And that is the saved position from the static trial. If my marker is present for some of the trial, I probably want to retain that because it is the actual measured position. So what I need to do is just expand my code a little bit. I'm going to add in an if statement. So if it exists, we want it to not do anything because it exists. However, if it doesn't exist, then we're going to run our replace lines so that we can replace, we can recall that C7 position. So I'm just going to point my dynamic body language model operation to my new piece of code, run that. And you can see that if that marker existed previously, then it will keep that. However, if the C7 marker is not present, then it will recall the position from the stored parameters. All right, I'll make those text files available to you. Hope that helps. Any questions, please get in touch.